For more than 40 years, we've been perfecting the 911. For more than 40 years, we've kept making the same discovery. Nothing is more difficult than making a 911 a better 911. One thing is clear, the overall concept is sacrosanct. A 911 is a 911. Nevertheless, we had to meet this challenge. For each of us, the first commandment was, hands off the basic 911 idea, but perfect the incarnation of this idea. What counts in the 911 is no longer revolution, but evolution. It's about millimeters, working on the details, all of them. Because the 911 has always been more than the sum of its parts, so if you optimize the parts, you improve the entire car, by far. Nevertheless, the first step was the toughest, the design. 5 years ago, some pretty extreme concepts were also on the drawing board. Then began the deletion process, the erasing, the focusing, each step taking us closer to the 911. Soon, 3 basic principles emerged: tautness, clarity, precision. Values that have always been intrinsic to the 911, but the objective now was to give them an even sharper focus. So actually, we changed nearly everything. First the big things and then the ever smaller things. But what difference should a single unspectacular millimeter make? In the door arch, for instance. All the difference. The difference between tight contours and boredom. 1 millimeter more or less is sometimes a world of difference. But designers appreciate even the little things in life. The engine developers had similar objectives and were similarly short on time. There were no limits to what could be proposed, with one exception. The engine had to remain in the rear because of the traction benefits. That we didn't want to sacrifice. And for the first time in a long while, there were to be 2 models, 2 engines. But installing any engine other than a 6-cylinder boxer, that would never have entered our mind, nor would it make any sense. Improving that engine, however, made lots of sense. So we took it completely apart. How else could we scrutinize every part, revise it or replace it with a new detail solution, and make the interaction of all parts still more precise in every temperature range? A 2 degrees Celsius difference in the climate chamber may not be much for a person, whether -28 or -30 is actually irrelevant. But not for the components of a high-performance engine. Work of this nature rapidly verges on an obsession, but that doesn't bother us. We just have a different name for it: pride. Just as obsessed and proud were the chassis engineers in the months to come. Naturally, they too had the task of improving the 911, and naturally they had the proper respect for the challenge. That didn't keep them from going over the chassis components with a fine-tooth comb. All of them, even the smallest, for bigger results. More sporty, and at the same time more comfortable, more agile, and more precise in handling. It was about 3 milliseconds, for instance. It took a pretty long time until we had achieved that 3 millisecond result. About 300 days. Record time. That's how fast the chassis now actively reacts to rough spots. How the driver reacts to this driving experience we cannot yet express numerically, but we're working on it. The importance of safety likewise cannot be measured, but how it's optimized can be. By changing dimensions, in some cases by up to 4 centimeters. Every single one of them is crucial. Make the airbags larger and at the same time gentler. Make materials more rigid and lighter. And when all the criteria have been met, Porsche engineers are still far from satisfied, so we kept on improving. And day by day, All the minute modifications added up to a more effective safety concept. We are sometimes asked, doesn't it hurt to see those cars impact against the crash wall? Our answer is always the same. The anguish is only mental, not physical. And that's the point of the exercise, isn't it? What hurts more in the bones than in the mind with the test drives? Not that a Porsche is short on comfort, on the contrary. But it does stand up to a 24-hour test far better than the human body. True, more than 1.5 million kilometers at the end of a 5-year development project are not exactly easily overlooked, judging perhaps by the 1 or 2 new wrinkles in our faces, but they come from our satisfied smiles. Why are we nevertheless so crazy about our seemingly endless test runs? Because every single one of those kilometers helps us learn how to master them even better. We had to learn that 5 years are not a very long time. Nevertheless, the 911 is finished. It has become still more precise, because sporting spirit has nothing to do with brute force. It has to do with those all-important little millimeters. Nothing is more difficult than making a 911 a better 911. However, nothing is more exciting than doing it.